Some of you might not be old enough to remember the original Nintendo Entertainment System, but for those of you that are old enough, this may look familiar. This is an authentic original Nintendo Entertainment System controller, and before we get into the controller itself, I just wanted to highlight the connector, because this is a rather interesting design. It, as you can see, it's kind of like a female serial port, yeah, a female serial port, with the exception of the fact that it only had 7 pins instead of 8, which I find rather interesting because, you know, back in the 80s the serial port was the thing for transferring information. So too was this particular controller connector design. And I don't know about you guys, but I find this rather interesting. For some reason I seem to think of serial ports whenever I look at this. And obviously you need to hook up your controller to your console in order to get it to work, but once you have it hooked up, then you're able to go ahead and play your games. So let's unravel our wire here and take a look at the controller itself. This is it. Not really too much to it. You have your Nintendo badging up here on the right. You have your A as an alpha button. You have your B as in Bravo. Start, select, and your D-pad, your up, down, left, and right. And if you can hear this, you know, the A and the B buttons had fantastic feedback, and so did the directional pad. Very nice. Very good for extended gameplay. And, you know, I'll bet... I don't really remember, because when I was playing this, I was about 5 years old when I was first playing this. When it was relatively new... Let's see... When it was brand new, I wasn't even born yet. But when it was relatively new, I was only a few years old. And I don't remember too much about playing this until I was about 6, when I could recall memories of that sort. 5 or 6, and you know, this controller was the very first console controller I had ever played on, period. Not this particular one, I might add. My relatives have one, and I would often go over to their place and play that one. This belongs to a system that I picked up used at a store, and that system is currently having some issues. I've got a video called NES Issues, and you can take a look at that one. And if you have some know-how, see if you can help me out, because I'm either going to try and see if we can't fix that one, or the one at my relative's house is still in pristine condition and still fully functional, so we might get that shipped to this place if we can. It depends on how things go. Anyway, the NES controller, let's get back to that. So yeah, not really too much to it. A, B, start, select. You notice that there are no shoulder buttons. This was before the days of shoulder buttons. You can think of this as a primitive Game Boy Color, for those of you who are old enough to remember the Game Boy Color, because it had color graphics, yet the level of graphics was very similar to that of the Game Boy Color. Same with the sound. In fact, the Nintendo Game Boy had a lot of the same titles, albeit, for example, Donkey Kong Land instead of Donkey Kong Country in relation to the Super Nintendo. It was the exact same thing, except it's black and white versus color. Super Mario Land, Super Mario Brothers is the exact, well, it's not the exact same thing, but it's got the same level of graphics and the same level of sound. So in the way, the NES can be thought of as a primitive Game Boy Color of sorts that worked with your standard television set. Now, for any of you who might be questioning whether or not this is authentic, you might pay to look at this. Nintendo Controller, model NES 004, made in Japan. Now, I cannot see that entirely clearly on the camera. I can tell that there's something there. I just read this before recording the video, so I know how it's laid out. But yeah, the NES controller. What's interesting is how things have gotten more complex over the years. After this, you've got the Super Nintendo, which had 4 buttons, the Nintendo 64, which had even more buttons and a control stick, and then from that point on, you pretty much had that way of design with the control stick, and of course with the GameCube we saw the C stick, and now with the Wii Remote it's a totally different concept altogether, where you control your games via remote control. But yeah, this is where it all began. This is the flagship product of the 80s in terms of video games. This was the hot topic item. Well, not to be confused with the clothing store, so my apologies. But yeah, the Nintendo Entertainment System controller. My rating, 10 out of 10. And the reason is because even though my current console's not working, I remember playing it at my relative's house long enough to get the best feel that you really could of any system controller. And I never got tired of it. I absolutely loved it. That's pretty much it. If you have any technical expertise, if you'd like to watch my video on NES issues, and I'm not forcing you to watch, I'm just saying that I could use all the help that I can, because I don't know, I just like to know what's wrong with it, and what could be done to solve the problem, if there's anything that could be done, because I can tell you this much, I don't know if Nintendo would be willing to service it, because, I mean, it's, 1985, it's now 2008, that's 23 years old. But anyway, on the subject of the NES controller, once again, 10 out of 10, absolutely perfect. Comments are welcome. No negatives on me, please. If you have any questions, watch the video. No glasses equals how much vision. And you'll get an idea of that, of how well I see without these and why I need to wear these. But yeah, anything about the NES controller, you're welcome to drop a line. Thank you for watching, and have a nice evening.